At this time, I would like to invite our also Sanat Vihare, Los Angeles Sanat Vihare, to deliver the Dhamma Talk.
Thank you, Fateh, for this opportunity to give a Dhamma talk, and with your permission and the permission of the other senior monks in attendance, I'd like to give a short Dhamma talk. I had a planned talk, but I see there's a lot of kids here in Avantisan. I'll tailor it for them better than for the adults. I thought it was going to be more adults, but there's more kids. I'll change it. I'll see. Come up with something right now. What is good? Do you know what is good? Your parents always tell you to be good, right? Your teachers tell you to be good. The monks tell you to be good, right? What is it to be good? Raise your hand. Can someone give me one example of what it is to be good? What do you think goodness is? Yes, young lady?
Goodness is to follow directions.
How about if someone tells you to jump off a bridge?
I don't do it.
Yeah. So goodness is not always just following directions, right? Sometimes it can be. Okay, now we get an idea of maybe it's not that. Does anyone else have an idea what goodness is? Come on. I know some of you boys like to talk a lot because you were running outside and you were talking. I saw you. No? This young lady in the front is very smart, I can tell. What do you think goodness is? One thing that's good. What does it mean when they tell you to be good? What's a good thing? Give me an example so we know what's a good thing. Yes, young man?
Listening.
Listening, right? Well, how about if someone says bad words? Should you listen?
No.
No, okay.
Be kind.
Kind, very good. That's one very good example. Being kind. Yes.
Nice.
Nice, yes. Kindness and nice go together. Young lady?
So you can also be respectful to teachers and...
Yes, respectful. Because you want them to what? Respect you too, right? Respect goes both ways. Very good. Now we're getting somewhere.
Care.
Caring, yes. Very good. So those are all very good. And now we kind of have an idea of what to be good is, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we have to understand, what is the formula or the way the Buddha wanted us to understand to be good. Okay? So in the second step of the Noble Eightfold Path, you should know the Noble Eightfold Path, right? You should know this. Okay? That's the basics of Buddhism. The second step is what? Right intention, right? First the intention comes, then you either think about what you're going to do, right? Or you think you're going to say it, or you're going to act it out, right? There's always an intention first, right? Like maybe you feel hungry, then you start thinking about, I'm going to prepare a sandwich. I'm too lazy, I'm going to tell my mom to make a sandwich for me, right? Or maybe you make it yourself. But behind it first comes the intention, right? So intention is very important, right? So the Buddha said, to be good, it has to have these three, or first he talks in negatives actually. It cannot have these three things. And then I'll tell you what the things that it has to have, okay? The first thing that it cannot have is it cannot be greedy, right? Greedy is not good. Why? Because you're only thinking about yourself, right? Or maybe you're just thinking about your friends or my family, right? It's always something about you. A group, some group that revolves around you. Or my pet. I'm not going to feed the other pet. It's only my pet, right? It's always about you. So, goodness is not greediness, okay? Next one, he says, it cannot be a thought of anger, right? So there can be no anger, right? Anger is not good, right? And then the third one he says is violent or cruelty. There can't be a cruel intention. So there can't be these three intentions, okay? This is how you know that if you think these three things, this is not a good intention or a good thought or a good action or a good thing to say. One, if it's greedy. Two, if it has hate or anger, you can use both of them, right? Or if it has cruelty, right? Or wanting to hurt someone or to hurt them some way, physically or verbally, some way, right? But how do we know from the positive side, right? So I told you these three things that it cannot have, right? If it has these three things, it's not a good thing. To think, to say, or to do. You shouldn't do it, say it, or even think it if it has these three things. But what should it have? First one, it should be one of sharing or altruism, right? This kind of like dana, right? Giving. That's the first kind. So if it's some sort of thought, word, or action that is about not you, but about altruistic, thinking about others, giving to others, letting go, then that is a good thing, right? The second one is loving kindness or metta, right? If it's a loving kind thought or word that you're going to say or action, then it's a good act. Then it's a good thing to do. Okay. And the last one is one that is non-cruel or compassionate, right? Something out of compassion, something that you do out of compassion. That is also a good thing to do. So the Buddha here says these 3 types of intentions, which is what you really need to know, because your thinking, your speech, and your actions, your behavior, follow your intentions always. You always go from your intentions. So you can always check with yourself, what kind of intention do I have? If it's greedy, if it's angry, if it's cruel, no. Stop thinking it, don't say it, and definitely don't do it, okay? But if it's one that's thinking about others, right? Helping others, sharing with others, not being greedy, one that's about loving kindness, and one that's about compassion or kindness, kindness is compassion, then do it, right? Then that's a good thing to do, okay? But how do we change our intention? How do we change our mind from being greedy, from being angry, and from being cruel, right? Because when your brother or sister or your friend or your cousin borrows one of your toys without your permission, what happens? You get angry, right? It's mine. That's a greedy thought. There's greed, there's anger, and sometimes there's cruelty because you go and you grab it back or you push them, right? Because they took it from you without permission. That's a bad thing to do. That's not the way, right? But it happens automatically, right? You see them take it and you just feel it inside of you, right? You don't want to be mad, but you just feel like it's taking over you, right? How do we stop this? How do we stop ourselves from being like this, right? Just taking over, the emotion taking us over, the bad intention taking us over. We have to train our minds. That's what we have to do, okay? We have to train our minds to think good instead of just thinking what's good for us, right? The greedy thoughts, the angry thoughts, and the cruel thoughts. How do we do this? The Buddha gave us many meditations in a particular order, but I just want to explain to you just one, okay? If you just hold this one, your whole life will change. If you just practice this one simple thing, okay? Just one thing, just for you, okay? You have to practice metta, loving kindness. That's the first step, okay? That's the first step that you have to practice. And I'm going to give you an example how, okay? So during the time of the Buddha, there was a group of monks who were going to go practice in the forest. But before the monks leave, they always ask permission from the Buddha. Just like you have to ask permission from your parents, okay? The Buddha was like their father, like their parents, and the monks have to ask permission before they go anywhere. They have to let them know. So they said, Venerable Sir, we're going to go practice meditation in the forest. He said, oh, that's very good for you monks. You should go practice. Go ahead. So they went to the forest, all right? This was a very remote forest though. And they got there, and when they got there, they started practicing meditation. But when they were practicing, they heard like weird noises, you know? And there was weird sounds, and something started bothering them. And it turned out that inside of the trees that the monks were meditating on, besides, there was these spirits that lived inside. And when the monks first came, the spirits thought, oh, very good, these monks are coming here to practice meditation. That's very nice, we'll let them sit outside of our trees. But the monks were practicing for a long, long time. And eventually the spirit said, we want to go back into our house, we live in the tree. But these monks are not leaving, they overstayed their welcome. Maybe sometimes your cousins or your uncles or aunties stay too long in your house. You know, you don't like it? Like that? Or maybe you, when you go to Sri Lanka, your other family members feel like that about you. When are you going to go back to America? It goes both ways, right? So these spirits, they felt like that, right? Like you do sometimes. And then they said, we got to do something to get rid of these monks. So they started scaring them, haunting them like ghosts, making weird noises. And the monks were very innocent. They got scared. They couldn't practice, so they left and they went back to the Buddha. And the Buddha saw them coming. He said, that's very strange. They're supposed to be practicing for a long time. But they came back early, and he asked the monks. He said, why did you guys come back so early? Right? Why did all of you come back so early? They said, Venerable Sir, we couldn't meditate there. It's not a good place to practice. Why? Well, there was these ghosts bothering us while we were there, and we got really scared, so we left. And then the Buddha said, oh, don't worry, I have a solution for that. You have to change your meditation now. You have to practice metta. Metta bhavana, loving kindness meditation. And then they said, well, how do you practice that, right? How do we practice loving kindness? And the Buddha said this, okay? He said, whether beings are small, right? Like a roach, or large, like an elephant. Whether they're human, like us, or non-human, maybe like a ghost, right? Those that you know about, like maybe all the animals in the world, all the people, you know, and those that you don't know about, maybe like beings in outer space or in heaven or in hell, right? All beings, skinny, fat, whatever they look like in any way, may all beings be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. He says, go monks, go back and practice that. The monks were very scared. Actually, they didn't want to go back. But since the Buddha told them, they had confidence in the Buddha, right? Buddha's not going to send us to do something bad or so for us to get hurt. So they went back to the forest. And they got there, and you can imagine them going back. Imagine you had to go back to where there was ghosts. You'd feel very scared. You wouldn't want to go there, right? But they went back anyways, and they sat there, and they started practicing loving kindness. And these spirits, the ghosts, could see their minds, and they saw, oh, these monks, we scared them, we treated them so bad, but they came back, and they started showing us loving kindness, metta. How could we do such a bad thing? Why did we scare them? They felt bad. They're such good monks. They're such good people. We feel so bad for what we did. You know what? Let's give them our house and let's help them meditate. Let's make it easier for them because they're so good. So you see how the power of this loving kindness? Even these spirits, you know, would use this metta, recognize this metta to see how good these monks were. It changed their mind, right? You can change a lot of things around you if you just act nicely. Because when you act bad, what happens? Usually more badness happens. If someone comes up to you at school, a kid, and he says something bad to you or treats you bad, if you treat him bad, then he might push you. Then you push him. Then he punches you, and you punch him. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, right? Anger with anger, fire with fire. It's not working, right? Better water for fire, right? What is the water? The cool calmness of loving kindness, right? If you say something bad, you don't react. You try to understand. Why is he mad, right? Maybe something bad happened to him. Maybe he's sick. He might have a reason. That person might have a reason why they're upset, right? So you shouldn't react bad. You should try to feel, oh, there's something going on with him. Maybe I should let the teacher know, or an adult know, or somebody else, right? But you shouldn't get upset back. Then that person, after their problem is fixed, they'll come back and they'll say, oh, you know what? I'm sorry for what I did that was wrong. Now I understand what I did was wrong. Thank you for not screaming back at me or pushing me or punching me or doing something, right? Because most of the time people, they want to defend themselves with force. But it's better to defend yourself with loving kindness. Okay, so you can practice this one, okay? If you've come to Sunday schools or basically any temple that you go, I know the monks talk about metta bhavana, right? They tell you close your eyes, relax your body, right? And they start saying, think about your parents, right? May my parents be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Then my brothers and sisters, may they be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. All my family members be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. My friends, my neighbors, right? All the people, all the animals, all the beings in the universe, everyone, even the ones in hell, right? They need it the most because they're suffering a lot. They need a lot of love. May all beings, without any difference, even my worst enemy, right? Even my little sister or brother who's a brat, may they be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Right? Everyone. That's the way you have to practice. Once you do that, the greed will disappear. The anger will disappear. The cruelty will disappear. And then everything that you do automatically will be good, right? But you have to change your mind first. So earlier in the ceremony, Bante, he said, right, when you do this meritorious action, kusala kamma, right? There is no greed, hatred, or delusion in your mind. Why? Because you have a good intention, right? You have a non-greedy thought when you came here. We're going to give food to the monks. We're going to offer to our ancestors, right? That passed away. That's a non-greedy one. You're giving, right? You're sharing. Then you have loving kindness because you feel loving and you feel some love towards your family members. And you have compassion. That's why you're sharing merits. You're being kind. I did these good things. I have this good karma. I have these good merits in my life. I want to share with others, right? So you are already practicing goodness according to what the Buddha said. You already know these things, right? But you don't know how to develop it further. You're just kind of doing it on your own, little by little following others. But now you know. You can practice by yourself anytime. During the commercial breaks on TV, right? While your other friends are playing and maybe you're taking a break. Well, in between of when you're doing chores, in between of doing homework, maybe you're tired of doing homework, you could take a little 3-minute break. Close your eyes and may all beings be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. And you'll feel so good, right? But not only think it, but talk. Everything that you say has to be from metta, loving kindness. Saying nice things, things that help people. And also, the things that you do have to be nice and kind too. Right? So we have to think, say, and do loving kindness things all the time. That is what's to be good, okay? To be good is to help others and also help yourself. Because when you help others, you help yourself, right? Because when you help others, people care about you and they're like, oh, he's a good person, I'm going to help him back, right? So it works both ways. You're actually helping yourself by helping others, okay? So that's what I want you to know today, right? What is good? You guys gave very good examples of what is good, okay? Now you understand. And now you know what the Buddha said, right? The intentions that the Buddha said that are good. Non-greed, loving kindness, and compassion, right? You know you shouldn't have thoughts that are greedy, of anger or cruelty. And now you know how to practice the meditation to make it even more stronger, right? Like the monks who are practicing. Then that way you won't be scared of ghosts. So if you're scared when you're in your room that there's a monster in the closet or a monster under your bed, just practice the loving kindness. And maybe the monster will become your protector. Like for the ghost, right? They started protecting the monks. Maybe that monster under your bed becomes your friend now. They need friends too. Poor monster is so lonely under the bed, right? With your stinky socks under there. He doesn't like it there. Be his friend better. Make friends instead of keeping enemies, okay? So with this, I'll be concluding my Dhamma talk, and Bhante will continue with the rest of the ceremony.